I'm going to be repeating the speech about police misconduct by Max. And the first point he brings up is that statistics from the National Police report show that there were 3,445 reports of misconduct in 2009, and in 2010 the number jumped to 4,861, which actually this claim is flawed in various parts, because police misconduct can be various things from theft to corruption. So he doesn't give us a specific number that shows that the majority, if all of them, were actually violating any of the civil rights of the citizens. And also he gives us two numbers of reports that are semi-annual, which means that there are 2 reports per year. And by this we can see that he gives no evidence that shows that police violating the civil rights actually is consistently increasing yearly. He also, another claim he makes is that militarization of police forces have actually increased in the wake of the 9/11 attacks, which this is flawed as well, because I have a quote from the Daily that says the trend toward militarization of police was well underway before 9/11. This started actually in 1997, where surplus of military equipment was given to police forces to actually combat drug and terrorism. And he actually gives a quote that says that it's given for drug and terrorism, which I don't see how this supports his claim, saying that any of this actually violates the civil rights of citizens. And he also continues to say that in another claim that an example police brutality was at UC Davis, where they're using tactics and violating the right to peacefully assemble, which is false as well. They have a full video of what actually occurred in UC Davis, and as you can see, many people have seen the edited version where police just come and pepper spray, and that's not what actually happened. The police stated various times that which specific law they were breaking, which was that they could assemble there, they can protest all they wanted, but there was people camping on the spot, and they were saying that actually was breaking the law that they had. They were given various warnings. If they didn't leave in a certain time, they would be arrested, and their tents were going to be taken down. And this actually happened. Then the protesters continued to chant, "Let them go," and they surrounded the police officers, not allowing them to leave the premises until their fellow protesters were freed. The police again gave multiple warnings that if they didn't get out of the way, they were going to use pepper spray to try to get out. And they actually went up to student saying, "Please move, or we're going to have to use pepper spray." The students didn't move. Then the police used pepper spray in order to be able to leave the protest. After bringing the spray, the students then allowed the police to leave. And also he says here that police have demonstrated military tactics in events that transpired in Oakland. And here I said that was a mistake. They used a tear gas canister in order to take the protesters out peacefully, because they had already cleared that place, because they said those camps, they were camping outside, and they said those were deteriorating safety and sanitation and health issues at that camp. And they came to reestablish presence in that area, which the police had cleared earlier. And also after that, several small skirmishes broke out, and the officers used tear gas to clear the area, and sadly one of those tear gases hit someone in the head, but that was in order to peacefully take them out. And I don't see how any of this violates any of these amendments. He says it violates the 4th and 1st Amendment. The 4th Amendment states that, he put it here actually, unreasonable seizures and searches. None of these people were actually searched. And also the 1st Amendment says, prohibits interfering with the right to peacefully assemble or petition the government. They were allowed to peacefully assemble. They were just trying to clear the people out of the camps, and that they were trying to come back in. That's why I believe that his speech was flawed, and not a lot of the points that he said made sense. Thank you.
All right, Juan, I like the way you went after particular examples as illustrations to undermine the advocate's claim, but I do think that there's a little bit of a problem organizationally. It just seems like there's no preview of what the structure is. There's no signposting of the individual claims. It just seems like you're running from one idea to the next idea to the next idea to the next idea. And as a consequence, as a listener, I constantly feel like I'm trying to keep up. Well, where am I in this argument? And it's just, you're presenting a lot of context and sometimes a counterclaim on a particular point without necessarily telling us how it fits into the bigger picture. So I think that's a little bit of a problem. But the things that you do well, I think you've got some good presses on. For instance, I would like to have the description that you give of the UC Davis example, the sequencing that's described. You need to tell us where you got that from. You make it sound like we've only seen a YouTube clip that only had part of it, and that you're describing what consists of the larger part of the video clip. And I think we need a reference to that. If there's a narrative that describes it, you should be citing that. If you were simply telling us what you saw in the video clip, that's a little bit more iffy on the process. Also, I think there should be some information about the follow-up, because that was the one particular case that there was some development on. I think you're challenging the context here, and if your position is correct and the sequence of events is accurately reflected in what you're saying, then there is reason to believe that this is not a violation of civil rights. The challenge that you make on the last point concerning the civil rights violations, that seems like something that should be coming up at the beginning of the speech. In other words, the whole argument is, for somebody's civil rights to be violated, they have to have violated some of the premises the advocate's talking about. Their right to peaceably assemble has to have been violated. They have to have been searched illegally. And they have to have been these kinds of things have to have been done without due process. And then all you need to do is point out that said they weren't denied their right to peaceably assemble. It's only when they became uncooperative with the police in trying to enforce the laws that exist here that there was any use of force. Prior to that, for instance, in context, some of these people were in the same spot for days, weeks, months at a time. So how you can say they've been denied their right to peaceably assemble is, it seems like it's counterintuitive. I think you've got a legitimate point on that. On the, on the search and seizure thing, does the advocate tell us a particular case where this came from? To me, the second point on the militarization, I thought was an interesting point. You went primarily with the one issue that says it really started before 9/11. When it started, it seems to me to be less important than the real issue is, how does the militarization of the police violate somebody's rights? All right, the fact that cops have vests and helmets and more up-to-date weaponry, whose rights are violated in this particular situation? Is there any demonstration that the police have gotten more aggressive and use force more frequently because they are wearing this protective equipment? Have they killed more people or shot more people as their rifles have become more technically proficient and the firepower returns on these kinds of things? I think that's the challenge to be making on that point. All right, I've been talking way more than I should.